Ladies, listen up. You've been told your whole life to be nice, to smile when you don't feel like it, to say yes when your soul screams no, to soften your edges so the world feels more comfortable around you. But let me tell you something. Being the nice girl isn't a badge of honor. It's a cage. It's a prison built out of apologies, people-pleasing, and self-sacrifice. And if you're tired of shrinking yourself just to fit in, then it's time to break free. Being nice is often just a way society controls women, making them more agreeable and less powerful. From the moment we are little girls, we are taught that being nice is the highest virtue we can possess. Be a good girl. Don't be rude. Smile. Don't talk back. These messages are drilled into us from every direction: our families, our schools, our workplaces, even the media we consume. And what does nice really mean? It means being quiet when we want to speak. It means sacrificing our own needs for the comfort of others. It means swallowing our anger, our ambition, our truth, all for the sake of keeping the peace. But let me ask you, whose peace are we really protecting? When society tells a woman to be nice, it's not about encouraging kindness. True kindness comes from a place of strength, from the ability to choose generosity, to show empathy, to uplift others without losing oneself. But nice? That's different. Nice is obedience. Nice is passivity. Nice is a leash around your neck, keeping you in check, making sure you don't challenge, don't disrupt, don't demand more than what you're given. Look at how the world treats women who refuse to be nice. If a woman is direct, she's called aggressive. If she asserts herself, she's labeled difficult. If she stands up for herself, suddenly she's bossy, cold, or worst of all, unlikable. The moment a woman stops being nice, she becomes a problem. And why? Because a woman who refuses to be controlled is a woman who cannot be easily manipulated. A woman who refuses to be nice is a woman who will not settle for less than she deserves. And that terrifies people. This is why so many of us struggle with guilt when we set boundaries. We have been conditioned to believe that saying no makes us mean, that choosing ourselves makes us selfish, that prioritizing our own well-being is somehow a betrayal of the role we were assigned, to be the caretakers, the nurturers, the ones who keep everything running smoothly no matter the personal cost. But let me tell you something. Your value is not measured by how much of yourself you give away. Think about all the times you've said yes when you wanted to say no, all the times you've bitten your tongue to avoid conflict, all the times you've let someone take advantage of you because calling them out would make you seem too much. Think about how exhausting that is, how draining it feels to constantly put others before yourself. Now ask yourself, who is benefiting from this? Because it sure as hell isn't you. The truth is, society doesn't want women to be powerful. It doesn't want women to be independent. It doesn't want women to be loud, opinionated, or unapologetically themselves. It wants them to be manageable. It wants them to be docile. It wants them to be palatable. And the easiest way to ensure that, teach them from birth that being nice is more important than being whole. But here's the thing. They can only control you if you let them. The moment you decide that your voice matters, that your boundaries are valid, that your existence is not meant to be in service of others, the entire game changes. You don't have to be nice. You don't have to make yourself smaller so that others feel big. You don't have to stay silent just because the truth makes people uncomfortable. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to demand respect. You are allowed to be more than just nice. For so long, you've been told that making others happy is the key to being loved, accepted, and valued. You've been taught that if you just say yes a little more, if you just agree a little faster, if you just go along with what everyone else wants, you will be appreciated. And for a while, it might seem to work. People smile at you, they call you sweet, they tell you you're such a good friend, such a good daughter, such a good girlfriend, such a good employee. You wear these compliments like gold stars on your chest, proof that you are doing something right. But what happens when you go home at the end of the day? What happens when you're alone with yourself, with the weight of all the things you didn't say, all the things you didn't do, all the things you wanted but never asked for? What happens when you realize that you've spent so much time making other people happy that you don't even know what happiness looks like for yourself? People-pleasing is a slow, quiet destruction of the self. It's a habit that teaches you to silence your own needs, to push your desires to the background, to ignore that small voice inside of you that says, "This isn't what I want." And the worst part, it never actually brings the happiness it promises. You think saying yes will make people love you. You think being easygoing, agreeable, always available will make them appreciate you more. But the truth is, it only makes them expect more from you. The more you give, the more they take. And before you know it, you're running on empty, bending over backward for people who never stop to ask if you're okay. People will take advantage of you as long as you let them. They will keep asking, keep expecting, keep leaning on you because you've made it easy for them. And it's not necessarily out of malice. It's just human nature. If you never say no, why would they assume you want to? If you never speak up for yourself, why would they assume you have different needs? They won't stop asking. They won't stop expecting because you've conditioned them to believe that you will always be there no matter what. And one day you'll wake up and realize that you've become a stranger to yourself, that the person in the mirror is someone who has spent so much time being what everyone else wanted her to be, that she has forgotten what she wanted in the first place. That the happiness you were chasing by pleasing others never actually arrived. It only left you drained, depleted, and resentful. Resentment is the natural consequence of people pleasing. You start to feel anger bubbling up inside of you, but not at them, at yourself. Because deep down, you know that you had a choice. You know that you could have said no. You know that you could have spoken up. And the hardest part to swallow, you know that the only person who kept you stuck in this cycle was you. People-pleasing isn't generosity. It isn't kindness. It isn't love. It's fear. Fear of rejection, fear of conflict, fear of not being enough unless you are constantly proving your worth by sacrificing yourself. But real happiness doesn't come from being liked by everyone. It doesn't come from molding yourself into whatever version of you they prefer. It doesn't come from giving until you have nothing left. Real happiness comes from knowing that you are enough as you are without needing to earn anyone's approval. It comes from setting boundaries and knowing that the right people will respect them. It comes from realizing that the people who only love you when you're bending over backward for them don't truly love you at all. You don't owe anyone a yes, especially when it comes at your own expense. For too long, you've been conditioned to believe that saying yes is the right thing to do, that being agreeable, accommodating, and available is a virtue, that turning someone down is rude, selfish, unkind, and so you say yes, even when you don't want to, even when you're exhausted, even when every fiber of your being is screaming for you to say no. And at first, it might not seem like a big deal. It's just one favor, just one extra shift at work, just one more errand for a friend, just one more dinner with a family member who drains you. But over time, those yeses pile up. They weigh you down. They chip away at your freedom, your energy, your peace of mind. What people don't tell you is that every time you say yes to something you don't want, you are saying no to yourself. No to your own needs, no to your own time, no to your own priorities. And the more you say yes out of obligation, the more people expect it from you. People will push as far as you allow them to. If you always say yes, they will keep asking. They will keep taking, not necessarily because they are bad people, but because that's what you've taught them to expect. You've trained them to see you as someone who always complies, always agrees, always puts their needs above your own. And the moment you hesitate, the moment you finally say no, they act shocked, disappointed, maybe even angry. But ask yourself, why is your no such a problem for them? If they truly respected you, wouldn't they want you to make choices that feel right for you? If they truly cared, wouldn't they understand that you are not here to be at their constant beck and call? The truth is, people who get upset when you set boundaries are the very people who benefited from you having none. Saying no is not cruel, it is not mean, it is not unkind. It is simply a declaration that your time, your energy, your life belong to you. That you are not here to be a servant to other people's wants. That you do not exist to make everyone else comfortable at your own expense. Think about all the times you've said yes when you wanted to say no. Think about how drained you felt afterward. Think about how much you wished you had stood up for yourself, how much you regretted letting yourself be talked into something you never wanted to do in the first place. Now ask yourself, why do you keep doing it? Is it because you're afraid of disappointing people? Afraid of being judged? Afraid that if you say no, they will stop liking you? But let me tell you something. If someone only values you when you're saying yes, they don't truly value you. They value what you can do for them. Your worth is not measured by how much of yourself you give away. Your kindness is not defined by how much you sacrifice. And your relationships should not be based on how much you can endure for the sake of others. You have the right to say no without guilt. You have the right to protect your time and your energy. You have the right to put yourself first. And if saying no pushes some people away, let them go. The ones who matter, the ones who truly care, will respect your no just as much as your yes. Respect is a two-way street. If they don't respect you, they don't deserve you. Respect is not something you should have to beg for. It is not something you earn by making yourself smaller, quieter, or easier to handle. It is not something you should have to fight for, especially in relationships that claim to be built on love, friendship, or family bond. Respect is the bare minimum. It is the foundation of every healthy connection, and yet so many people, especially women, are taught to tolerate disrespect in the name of keeping the peace. How many times have you let something slide because you didn't want to seem difficult? How many times have you bitten your tongue when someone spoke to you in a way that made you feel small? How many times have you told yourself, maybe I'm overreacting, maybe they didn't mean it that way, maybe I should just let it go? But why should you? Why should you continue giving respect to those who refuse to return it? Why should you keep excusing bad behavior just because you don't want to make waves? Why should you accept treatment that makes you feel anything less than worthy? The truth is, the moment you allow disrespect to go unchecked, you give people permission to keep treating you that way. The more you let things slide, the more they push the boundaries. They test you. They see how much they can get away with. They take your silence as acceptance, and before you know it, what started as a small offense turns into a pattern. And let's talk about those who disguise disrespect as jokes, the ones who make little digs at your expense, who call you too sensitive when you don't laugh, who gaslight you into thinking you're imagining things. Pay attention to them, because someone who truly respects you will never find humor in making you feel uncomfortable. They will never dismiss your feelings as an overreaction. They will never try to make you doubt your own perception of reality. Respect is not just about words. It's about actions. It's about how people treat you when they don't need anything from you. It's about how they speak to you, how they listen to you, how they acknowledge your worth without you having to prove it. A person who respects you will hear you when you set a boundary. They won't push you past your limits just to see if they can. They won't demand your time, your energy, your effort while giving nothing in return. And here's where many people struggle: cutting off those who refuse to respect them. Because sometimes the people who disrespect you are the people closest to you. The friends you've known forever, the family members you feel obligated to keep around, the partner you've spent years with who you love, but who continues to belittle you, control you, ignore your needs. It's hard, but you have to ask yourself, what is the cost of keeping them in your life? How much of yourself do you have to sacrifice just to keep the relationship going? The reality is, if someone doesn't respect you, they don't deserve access to you. They don't deserve your kindness, your time, your energy. They don't deserve to stand in your life while treating you like you are disposable. And the moment you decide that respect is non-negotiable, you will see just how many people have been taking advantage of your willingness to tolerate less than you deserve. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, by what you accept, by what you walk away from. And if someone cannot meet the basic standard of treating you with dignity, they are not someone you need to keep around. From the time you were young, you were made to believe that saying no was wrong, that refusing someone's request was rude, inconsiderate, even mean, that a good person, especially a good woman, should always be willing to help, to give, to accommodate. And so you started saying yes to things you didn't want to do. You started prioritizing other people's comfort over your own. You started believing that the only way to be liked, to be loved, to be accepted was to be available whenever someone needed you. But what happens when you are the one who needs something? What happens when you are tired, when you are overwhelmed, when you have nothing left to give? Who shows up for you? Who drops everything to make sure you're okay? More often than not, the answer is no one, because you've trained everyone to believe that you are the one who gives, not the one who needs. You've set a pattern where your needs come second or third or last. And the moment you start saying no, the moment you start enforcing boundaries, people look at you like you've changed, but you haven't changed. You've just stopped betraying yourself. Saying no is not selfish. It is self-preservation. It is recognizing that your energy is limited, that your time is valuable, that your well-being matters just as much as anyone else's. It is understanding that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that constantly giving to others while neglecting yourself will only lead to exhaustion, resentment, and burnout. Think about all the times you have agreed to something you didn't want to do just to avoid disappointing someone. Think about all the times you have stretched yourself thin, running on fumes, just to meet someone else's expectations. Think about how drained you felt afterward, how much you wished you had just said no. Now ask yourself, why are you so afraid of that word? Because you don't want to be seen as difficult, because you don't want to let people down, because you fear rejection, judgment, or losing people who might walk away if you stop being so accommodating? But here's the truth. If someone only values you when you say yes, they don't truly value you. They value what you can do for them. And those are not the people you need in your life. Saying no doesn't mean you don't care about others. It doesn't mean you are unkind or inconsiderate. It simply means that you care about yourself as well, that you refuse to run yourself into the ground for the sake of people who wouldn't do the same for you, that you understand your own worth and you refuse to let guilt dictate your decisions. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your energy. You don't have to justify why you don't want to do something. No is a complete sentence, and the more you use it, the more you will realize that the people who truly respect you will understand, while the ones who only valued your compliance will start to fall away, and let them. Because your life is not meant to be lived in service of everyone else's expectations. Your needs, your limits, your peace, they matter. And saying no is the first step in reclaiming them. For so long, you've been told that having boundaries makes you cold, unkind, or selfish. That saying, I won't accept this, or this doesn't work for me, is somehow an act of cruelty. That if you truly care about people, you will always be available, always be flexible, always be willing to bend. But let me ask you this. When was the last time someone told a man that setting boundaries made him difficult? When was the last time a man was made to feel guilty for enforcing his limits? The truth is, society loves a woman without boundaries. It loves a woman who gives endlessly, who forgives without hesitation, who tolerates mistreatment, because she has been taught that patience is a virtue. It loves a woman who puts everyone else first, even at the expense of her own well-being. But the moment a woman draws a line, the moment she says, I will not allow this, suddenly she's the problem. But let's make something clear. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are not about shutting people out or refusing to be there for others. Boundaries are about making sure that the people in your life treat you with the same care and respect that you so freely give to them. They are about making sure that your kindness is not mistaken for weakness. They are about protecting yourself from being drained, used, or taken for granted. Think about it. When you have no boundaries, what happens? People expect access to you at all times. They assume you will always say yes. They take your time, your energy, your attention without a second thought because they know you won't stop them. And when you finally do try to set a boundary, when you finally say, I can't do this anymore, they act offended, as if your limits are an inconvenience to them, as if you owe them an explanation for choosing your own well-being. But here's what you need to understand. The people who get the angriest when you set boundaries are the people who benefited from you having none. They are the ones who took and took without ever considering how it might be affecting you. They are the ones who only respected you when you were easy, agreeable, and endlessly accommodating. And if someone can't respect your boundaries, what does that say about them? It says they don't see you as a person with your own needs, emotions, and limits. It says they see you as a resource, something to be used, something to be depended on, something that exists for their convenience. But you are not a resource. You are a person. And your energy, your time, your space deserve to be protected. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about letting the right people in. The ones who respect your time, the ones who don't take advantage of your kindness, the ones who understand that love and friendship should never come at the expense of your own well-being. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. It is the moment you decide that your needs matter just as much as anyone else's. It is the moment you stop feeling guilty for prioritizing yourself. And yes, some people will leave when you set boundaries, but let them go. Because the ones who truly belong in your life will never ask you to sacrifice yourself for their comfort. From the time you were little, you were taught that being nice was the ultimate virtue, that kindness was a moral obligation, something you owed to everyone, no matter how they treated you. You were told to turn the other cheek, to be the bigger person, to give people the benefit of the doubt, even when they hurt you. And so you did. You gave your kindness freely, without question, without hesitation. You forgave the friend who constantly took advantage of you. You excused the family member who never respected your boundaries. You smiled at the coworker who undermined you, nodded along when someone spoke to you in a condescending tone, bit your tongue when someone disrespected you. Because that's what a good person does, right? But here's what no one tells you. Kindness is not an obligation. It is not something you are required to extend to people who mistreat you, manipulate you, or drain you. It is not something you owe to those who see your warmth as an invitation to take advantage of you. Because not everyone who receives your kindness will appreciate it. Not everyone will reciprocate it. And not everyone deserves it. Kindness is a gift, not a currency. It is something you give because you want to, not because you feel forced to. And the moment you start giving it out of guilt or obligation, it loses its meaning. You are not a bad person for deciding that some people do not deserve access to your warmth, your patience, your understanding. In fact, you are simply recognizing that your energy is valuable. Think about the people who have made you feel small, the ones who have spoken to you with cruelty, dismissed your feelings, made you feel like you were hard to love. Think about the ones who took and never gave anything back. Did your kindness change them? Did your endless patience teach them to treat you better? Or did it only reinforce their belief that they could continue treating you however they wanted without consequence? People will only value what they have to earn. If someone receives your kindness, regardless of how they treat you, they will not appreciate it, they will not respect it, they will take it for granted, and they will keep expecting it even when they give you nothing in return. You are not required to be kind to people who refuse to be kind to you. You are not obligated to be understanding to people who dismiss your feelings. You do not owe gentleness to those who make you feel like your worth is conditional. If someone continually disrespects you, manipulates you, or drains you, you have every right to withhold your kindness. Not as an act of cruelty, but as an act of self-respect. And so let's be clear. There is a difference between being kind and being a pushover. Kindness does not mean letting people walk all over you. It does not mean tolerating mistreatment. It does not mean shrinking yourself to accommodate someone else's bad behavior. True kindness comes with boundaries. It comes with standards. It comes with an understanding that you can be warm and open-hearted without being needy. You are not responsible for fixing or saving people who refuse to change. You are not required to keep giving to those who only take. And if someone makes you feel guilty for withholding your kindness, ask yourself, do they really want your kindness or do they just want your compliance? Because there's a big difference. For years, you have been conditioned to believe that your job is to keep the peace, that you should avoid conflict at all costs, that it is your responsibility to manage other people's emotions, to soften your words so they don't feel uncomfortable, to hold back your true thoughts so no one gets upset. You've been taught that standing up for yourself is risky, that it could make people angry, that it could push them away, that it could make them think you're too much. And so you stayed quiet. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You let things slide when you wanted to push back. You tolerated words, behaviors, and situations that hurt you because you were too afraid of making someone else uncomfortable. But at what cost? How many times have you swallowed your feelings to make someone else feel better? How many times have you let yourself be disrespected just to avoid an argument? How many times have you walked away from a situation knowing that you should have spoken up, but you didn't because you were too worried about how the other person might react? But here's the truth. Their feelings are not your responsibility. If standing up for yourself makes someone uncomfortable, that is their problem, not yours. If your boundaries upset someone, that says more about them than it does about you. If someone gets angry when you say no, it's because they benefited from your silence, from your compliance, from your willingness to always put their needs above your own, and that is not your burden to carry. You do not exist to make everyone else comfortable. You do not have to shrink yourself to avoid making waves. You do not have to sacrifice your own well-being just to keep someone else happy. Because the reality is, no matter how much you try to please everyone, there will always be someone who thinks you should be doing more. There will always be someone who expects you to bend, to give in, to go along with whatever they want. But the more you prioritize other people's feelings over your own, the more you teach them that your needs don't matter, that your voice doesn't matter, that they can continue to take and take while you remain silent. And that cycle will never end until you decide to end it. Standing up for yourself is not rude, it is not mean, it is not selfish, it is a declaration that you will no longer allow yourself to be treated as less than you deserve. It is an acknowledgement that your thoughts, your feelings, your boundaries matter. And yes, some people will not like it. Some people will try to make you feel guilty. Some people will say, you've changed, as if that's a bad thing. But think about this. Why does your self-respect make them so uncomfortable? Why does your voice threaten them? Why do they only support you when you are quiet and agreeable? Because people who truly love and respect you want you to stand up for yourself. They want you to feel empowered, strong, and confident. They want you to express your needs without fear. And if someone reacts negatively to you setting boundaries, enforcing your worth, and refusing to be mistreated, then they were never truly on your side to begin with. You are not responsible for other people's emotions when you choose to stand up for yourself. You are only responsible for making sure that you don't betray yourself in the process. Walking away from toxic people is an act of self-love, not weakness. For so long, you believed that walking away meant giving up, that cutting someone off was too harsh, too extreme, too final, that if you just tried harder, if you were more patient, more understanding, more forgiving, you could fix things. You could change them. You could make them see how much they were hurting you. But let's be honest. How many chances have you given? How many times have you told yourself, maybe this time will be different? How many times have you excused someone's behavior because you didn't want to seem cruel, because you didn't want to be the one who gave up, because you didn't want to believe that they would never change? But some people will never change, no matter how much love you give them, no matter how much you explain, no matter how much you wait, hoping that one day they'll finally treat you the way you deserve. Because the hard truth is, some people don't want to change. Some people are perfectly content taking advantage of your kindness, your patience, your willingness to always give them another chance. And as long as you allow them to stay in your life, they will continue to drain you. Toxic people come in many forms. They can be the friend who only reaches out when they need something but disappears when you need them. They can be the partner who makes you feel small, who undermines your confidence, who controls you with guilt and manipulation. They can be the family member who never respects your boundaries, who criticizes your choices, who belittles your emotions. They can be the coworker who takes credit for your work, who gaslights you into thinking you're overreacting, who thrives on making you doubt yourself. And you keep them around. Why? Because you feel obligated, because you have history, because you're scared of what life will look like without them. But what is the real cost of keeping them in your life? How much of yourself have you lost in the process? Walking away is not weakness. It is the bravest thing you will ever do. It is saying, I will no longer tolerate this. It is understanding that you are not responsible for fixing, healing, or caring people who refuse to take accountability for their own behavior. And yes, it will be hard. You will second guess yourself. You will wonder if you were too harsh, if you should have stayed longer, if you should have tried one more time. Because toxic people know how to make you doubt yourself. They know how to twist the narrative, how to make you feel like you're the problem, how to manipulate you into thinking that cutting them off is a betrayal. But listen to me, you are not betraying them. You are saving yourself. You are walking away from the stress, the self-doubt, the exhaustion that comes with constantly trying to manage someone else's toxicity. You are reclaiming your peace, your energy, your happiness. You are choosing to surround yourself with people who uplift you, who respect you, who bring light into your life instead of darkness. And let's be clear, walking away does not mean you hate them. It does not mean you wish them harm. It simply means that you love yourself enough to stop letting them hurt you. It means that you understand your worth and you refuse to keep sacrificing your well-being for the sake of someone who doesn't appreciate it. The people who deserve to be in your life will never force you to question your worth. They will never drain you, manipulate you, or make you feel like you are hard to love. And the moment you choose to walk away from toxicity, you open yourself up to something better, something peaceful, something real. Loving yourself means refusing to settle for less than you deserve. For years, you've been told to be grateful for what you get, that you shouldn't ask for too much, expect too much, or demand too much from the world, that settling is better than ending up alone. that wanting more for yourself, whether in friendships, relationships, career, or life in general, is selfish, ungrateful, unrealistic. So you settled. You accepted half-hearted love because it was better than nothing. You stayed in friendships that drained you because you didn't want to be lonely. You tolerated mistreatment at work because you were scared of losing your job. You convinced yourself that good enough was enough, even when deep down you knew it wasn't. But here's what you need to understand. Settling is not the same as being grateful. Gratitude is appreciating what you have while still recognizing that you deserve more. Settling is convincing yourself that you have to accept less than you deserve because you're afraid you won't find better, and that fear keeps you trapped in situations, relationships, and environments that slowly break you down. Loving yourself means unlearning the lie that you should be thankful for bare minimum effort, for inconsistent attention, for people who only choose you when it's convenient for them. It means rejecting the idea that love, respect, and kindness are things you have to earn, that they aren't simply the baseline of what you deserve as a human being. Think about the times you let things slide, the times you made excuses for someone who never showed up for you, the times you stayed in situations that made you unhappy because you thought maybe this is just how life is. But what if it isn't? What if you're allowed to expect more? What if settling was never meant to be your story? Loving yourself means raising your standards, not just for others, but for yourself. It means deciding that you will no longer entertain people who treat you like an option, that you will no longer invest in friendships that only drain you, that you will no longer stay in places that make you feel unappreciated, unseen, or unworthy. And no, it won't be easy. You will question yourself. You will wonder if you're asking for too much. You will miss the comfort of familiarity, even when you know it wasn't good for you, because settling is easy. It's what you've always known. But choosing yourself, that takes courage. That takes strength. That takes a willingness to say, I will no longer accept less than I deserve, even if it means walking away from everything I've known. People might not understand. They might tell you that you're being too picky, too demanding, too difficult. But ask yourself, why does your self-respect make them uncomfortable? Why do they want you to accept less? The answer is simple. People who benefit from you settling will always try to convince you that you don't deserve better. But you do. You always have. Loving yourself is not about arrogance or selfishness. It is about knowing your worth and refusing to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. It is about understanding that you were not put on this earth to live a life of almost and good enough. You were meant for more. And the moment you stop settling, the moment you start choosing yourself unapologetically, you will see how much better life can be. So stop being the nice girl. If being nice means betraying yourself, stop silencing your voice to keep the peace. Stop pouring into people who only drain you. Stop making excuses for those who refuse to respect you. Stop settling for relationships, friendships, and situations that make you feel small, because you are not small. You are powerful. You are worthy. You are allowed to take up space, to demand respect, to set boundaries, to choose yourself without guilt. You do not owe the world blind obedience, constant self-sacrifice, or endless patience for those who refuse to grow. You owe yourself everything you've been so willing to give to others. Your love, your kindness, your loyalty, it all starts with you. And the day you finally decide to stop settling, to stop apologizing for your strength, to stop playing small for the comfort of others, that is the day you truly begin to live.